Hello, everyone. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Joel Ibanez, and I am your worship associate today. I'm joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister. Our director of music ministries, Jacob Swetland, is not here today, but we do have a talented group of musicians here who are able to serve us. And we are also joined by our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, Karen Magoon Pearson. And welcome you this morning. So we all welcome you here today. We do also respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Ahachimen and Tonga land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones, and for our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I want to extend a special welcome also to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. And we'll start our service off with the beginning of our worship with the lighting of our chalice. And this morning, I'd like to invite Matthew Patterson up to go ahead and light the chalice. Matthew has been a member with us for about a year and a half now. He is very into photography, costuming, and is a World of Warcraft fanatic. So, so with that, we'll go ahead. Let our worship begin as he lights the chalice. Let our worship begin as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Please rise and embody your spirit and join us in singing our opening song.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By may faint strong the rafters will withstand the battening of the storm. This heart, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine. Every casual corner blooms into our shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
How many people here know what Diwali is? A lot of people. How about many people who don't know what Diwali is? Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, you're going to have a little bit of fun today. We are going to be honoring this wonderful celebration called Diwali, which is celebrated in India by most Hindus and Sikhs and Buddhists that live there. It's celebrated around the world, in fact. In fact, it's celebrated today, November 12th. So we're going to be honoring that wonderful tradition. The holiday itself actually celebrates many different things, but ultimately it's about good conquering evil. And I want to give a shout out to Prasan, who has helped me with some of today's service. But I just want you to know that the interpretations and missteps are my own. Okay. Now we're going to listen to a music video that is sung in Hindi, which most of us don't speak. So I thought I would open up our worship this morning with some of the partial translation of some of what they're saying in this and the joy that they are expressing. So this is part of what they're singing. Diwali has come, and tonight it will remove all darkness. Lamps light the night so bright that it seems like morning. Let us exchange love tonight under the sky full of bright stars. Let us meet each other with love and don't create any separation. So happy Diwali, everyone. Let us listen.
करे दूर अंधेरा दीप जले ऐसे लगे जैसे सवेरा
प्यार की सौगातें हूँ तारों की बारातें हूँ
दूरी की न बातें हो बस मुलाकातें हो
सबको यही देती संदेशा दीपावली गली गली बन के खुशी छाई रे रोशनी की चादर ओढ़े दीपावली आई रे दीपावली गली गली बन के खुशी छाई रे रोशनी की चादर ओढ़े दीपावली आई रे अपने तिलक लगाए आज अपने भाग हम सवारे
हमसे धन की देवी रूठे ना कभी
डोर सुख चैन की टूटे ना कभी
सबको यही देती संदेशा ईदे अली घरे घरे मन खुशी से माते जे चतुर्दिके आलो घरे ईदे अली आशे
ए दिवाली चारे पासे बढ़ के खुशी छाई वे रोशनी दे रंग लगे दिवाली आई वे रोशन करे हम आग में बुराई को जलाए
छोड़े अब नशे की आदतें सभी
अब न हो जुए की चाहते कभी
सबको यही देती संदेशा
दीपावली गली गली के भी खुशी लावी रे अजवाड़ा नी चादर ओढ़ी दीपावली आवी रे
दीपावली अनेक रकम संतोष दे
आज की ये रात करे दूर अंधेरा दीप जले ऐसे लगे जैसे सवेरा
प्यार की सौगातें हो तारों की बारातें हो दूरी की न बातें हो बस मुलाकातें हो
सबको यही देती संदेशा दीपावली गली गली बन के खुशी छाई रे रोशनी की चादर ओढ़े दीपावली आई रे दीपावली गली गली बन के खुशी छाई रे रोशनी की चादर ओढ़े दीपावली आई रे
Dipavali fills the streets with happiness and everything across the sky declines the night Dipavali is here today
दीपावली गली गली बन के खुशी छाई रे रोशनी की चादर ओढ़े दीपावली आई रे
So we're going to actually learn a little bit more about what Diwali is in our Time for All Ages. This is another video. I want to give a shout out also to Sarah H. for finding this video to help us learn more about Diwali. Now, I want to also just note that Diwali is called this in the northern states of India, and it's also called Deepavali in the southern and eastern states of India. And so people celebrate this slightly differently around the country there, but both of those words mean a row of lights, and you'll see about the diyas, which is what these lights up here are, diyas, and you'll hear about the row of lights there. So let us learn about Diwali.
Long ago in India, there was a great warrior prince named Ram. Ram was banished from his country by his father, King Dashrath. The king told Ram that he could only come back after living in the forest for 14 years. While in the forest, his wife Sita was kidnapped by the 10-headed demon king Ravan. But Ram rescued her with the help of his brother and the monkey general Hanuman, and eventually returned to his homeland. When Ram returned, people were overjoyed and celebrated by lighting their homes with lamps, decorating the whole city, and setting off fireworks. This is the story of the beginning of Diwali. Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights, is a festival mainly celebrated by Hindus, people who follow the religion of Hinduism, but is also celebrated by Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. It celebrates the triumph of good over evil, joy over despair, and light over darkness, and is considered the most important holiday of the year. The tale of how Diwali came to be celebrated differs across India, but the story of Ram you just heard is the most common version. The festival of Diwali occurs on the 15th day of the Hindu month Kartik, which is the holiest month of the Hindu lunar calendar. It usually occurs in October or November. There are many different traditions that take place during Diwali. One of these is lighting a row of clay lamps outside the home. These special lamps are called diyas, and their light symbolizes purity, good luck, and power. It is believed that the presence of light drives away darkness and evil forces. Along with lighting diyas, each home is thoroughly cleaned to welcome positivity, and the windows are opened to let in Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth and good fortune. It is believed that she can only enter homes that are clean and illuminated, which is another reason people light their diyas. One of the more artistic traditions is the creation of rangoli. It's a beautiful pattern created on floors using coloured rice, sand, flour, or flower petals. They are believed to bring good luck and are used to welcome guests and the goddess Lakshmi. During Diwali, you will also see people lighting firecrackers and sparklers to scare away evil spirits with their bright colours and loud noises. Like many other celebrations around the world, Diwali sees family and friends exchange gifts and share a feast together. Lots of delicious sweets and snacks are prepared for Diwali. Look at all these traditional sweets. Everyone celebrates special days in their own way, and these are just some of the common ones seen during Diwali as celebrated by Hindus. During Diwali, you can say Happy Diwali, which is a greeting to those who celebrate it. Perhaps you can even keep an eye out for beautiful diyas, light displays and fireworks that commemorate this special festival.
So now you know a little bit about Diwali. It's pronounced Diwali or Diwali. There are many different ways of pronouncing things. So I want to just say, let's invite Karen Magoon Pearson, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth. She's going to light the children's chalice, and then we will sing our children and their teachers and special guests today out to those classes. Let us begin.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go.
Diwali is a time of such joy and happiness and love. And we're going to talk about good and evil today, okay? Because it is about conquering evil. But, it's, you know, I don't know about you, but when you were a kid, didn't good and evil seem so simple? Like I grew up in the Cold War, and the bad guys were very clear about who they were, right? And it was so easy to tell, right? We even had like Goofus and Gallant. Do you remember Goofus and Gallant from highlights, right? They would tell us what was right or what was wrong. You know, we had superheroes like Superman and Wonder Woman, right? And the bad guys were really easy to see, right? You could even just tell from their costume that they were the bad guys, right? And I don't know about you, but there are times when I long for those days. When it's just, I just want it to be simple. And it's very human to want simple answers and for it to be very clear what is good, what is evil. Because we want to make the right decisions, right? But I think adulthood is often about holding this concept that there isn't always just one right and one wrong. And that's a really hard thing to grow into. And this concept of good and evil seems to kind of get muddier every passing day. And I've been asking myself for the last month or so, like, what is evil? What is good for that matter? Does good or evil, does it exist on some sort of spectrum, right? Do you say something is more good or more evil than another? Or is it always sort of situational, like that postmodern idea that it's all relative, right? Is it always in the eye of the beholder? You might even ask, is there such a thing as good and evil? Personally, I think we have a little bit of a language issue in English about good and evil. They're adjectives or nouns, right, depending on how you use them. But what they really describe are specific behaviors or actions. So we say someone is a good person because when we mean that they do things that are kind or generous or loving, those are all positive attributes. And it probably comes from our experience of those people. If you think about when we all have sort of a collective idea that someone like Mother Teresa or Gandhi or MLK, like they're all good people. I've known you all to be good people as well. I've seen how you care for one another and for people outside this congregation. But if we say someone is evil, it's kind of the opposite, right? They do bad things. They do things that are greedy or mean or violent. And it comes also from our experience of what we might call them. If you think of Hitler or Putin or Osama bin Laden. I think it's safe to say that we know evil when we see it, and we know goodness when we see it or experience it. I think one of the reasons why the Ukraine-Russian war has gotten such a strong response from the West is it's so nice and clear. The good guys and the bad guys, right? Russia invaded without provocation a sovereign nation. But then October 7th happened, and we have the Israeli-Palestine conflict flaring up again. And who are the good guys and the bad guys? And trying to decide what is causing so much turmoil in our country right now, even. So I want to try to define what evil is. A little bit of goodness as well. And then maybe we can figure that out. And I'll talk about evil first, simply because that's what worries us the most, really, right? That stresses us out. What is it and where does it come from? So personally, I'm not a believer that it comes from somewhere outside of ourselves. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe that in any shape or form. I think it comes from simply being human, right? It's from our experiences and the experiences of those that we love. So is evil hate or is it fear? I don't think those are the same things. I believe that hate and fear help sort of plant the seeds of evil. I think we can fear something or even hate something without necessarily doing evil. But how does that seed of evil get planted? For me, the seeds of evil get planted with simply a thought. But the more we water that seed with the thought of maybe hate or fear or violence, it can grow so large that it cuts us off from other people. What one of my colleagues, the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, she calls it the terrible disconnect. It's an enveloping darkness that we can no longer see or even hear the humanity of another person. We become able to see or hear the suffering of another person. They become things, something less than human, a bug, a gnat, an animal. And that to me is when evil takes hold. And there are signs that evil is growing that's already here, right? That it's already here, that's inside of us. That's that someone is enveloped by that kind of darkness. And one of those signs is the way that we talk about people that we fear or hate. It's when the Russians call Ukrainians Nazis, right? Because we all hate Nazis. When Netanyahu called the Palestinians animals. If thoughts are the first step, then words are thoughts made manifest, right? That's the second step toward evil. That's the watering of that seed. And then the third is violence. Evil is taken over when we open fire on innocent people at a rave in the Israeli desert, at a nightclub in Florida, or evil is bombing innocents in the streets of Gaza City. When people become things to us, when they're suffering, like when it means something, it becomes like a malignant growth. It's like a terrible cancer that won't stop growing. It grows kind of slowly, often unawares in us, until it almost, in a sense, cuts off our brain function and our heart function. It cuts off our logic and reason and even our sense of compassion, our ability to connect with another's suffering. And this virus, this cancer, this seed of evil is inside all of us. We can think of evil as a kind of growth or like a weed, or even that spread through fear, hate, or violence, but it could also be the sense of a cancer, a disease. And those are all imperfect metaphors, but bear with me, they're the only ones I could think of. So for example, if someone hits you, right, it's very natural, right, to want to hit back. At that point, the victim who's been hit has two choices about how they react. Well, maybe three. They can say, well, wait a minute, why did you do that? Why are you hitting me? They can ask questions. They can see if that person is expressing remorse, or they can hit back, or they can run away. The interesting thing is regret, remorse, and repentance are all signs of evil starting to shrink. But because evil is grown via hatred and fear and violence, most people will strike back with violence or hatred, or run away in fear and anger. And that's how evil spreads. It's like a plague that once you've touched by it, it's hard not to let it fester inside of you. Moreover, because evil evokes this strong emotional response like hate and fear, logic goes out the window, right? These are strong emotions that are being evoked that kind of go to that core of that little part of our brain, that's where the lizard is, that's fight or flight, right? So if someone hits you, and that person is of a different color or culture than you, that disease of evil tells you then that all people of that race or cultural background must be bad people. So when you start taking your anger out on all people who looked or act that way, that's how the evil starts growing. It's when Hamas becomes all Palestinians or all Arabs. It's when the Israeli Defense Force or the government becomes all Israelis or all Jews. And when you have a big evil event such as the massacre on October 7th in Israel by Hamas, it's very understandable that many Israelis want to hit back, and the Israeli government did. And Hamas, of course, feels no regret or remorse because they don't see the humanity of the Israeli people. Why is that? Well, the Israeli government has been oppressing the Palestinian people for a long time, spreading the disease of evil through fear, hate, anger, and violence. And some Palestinians caught that disease and enjoys Hamas. They don't see Israelis as human anymore. And when Netanyahu called all Palestinians animals, that's a sure sign that evil has taken hold. He doesn't see them as human beings with dignity and worth anymore. Moreover, he's conflated the Palestinian people with Hamas. In his eyes, all Palestinians are evil, without realizing that he himself is being eaten away inside by this malignancy of evil. And the more we see the cycle of anger, hate, and fear, this can lead to oppression, violence, and killing, which leads to more anger, hate, and fear. And then it just cycles over and over and over again. And the disease starts spreading wider and wider, growing deeper and deeper in us. And most of us have no idea how to stop this cycle. And this is what, to my mind, is at the heart of these types of conflicts that go on, particularly in Israel and Palestine. How do we stop this cycle? Now, for outsiders, those of us who are not there, those not in the thick of things, we're often asked to choose sides, right? But what if you don't want to choose sides? What if you simply want to stop the cycle of violence, hate, and fear? How does that even occur? And the problem is that evil doesn't not want you to stop the cycle of hate and violence, right? It wants you to choose a side because then it can perpetuate and grow. It doesn't want to consider that there might be something more than just a binary choice of this team or this team. That way people continue to feel self-righteous, which, quite frankly, self-righteousness can be very addictive, right? That feeling of, I'm right. Feel good about their anger and justify their violence or their hatred. And that's what evil wants. That's how it grows. And it's so hard right now to talk about the Israeli-Palestine conflict because of evil. This fear and hatred and violence is taking a hold of all of us. And even my colleagues and I online have been fighting over, you can't say this, you can't say that. No, what do you mean by that? Oh, you're anti-Semitic. No, you're, anti-Islamophobic. It's kind of amazing. You would think that we would be better at that, right? And in fact, one minister said that she's afraid to say anything, and she counsels us, don't say anything. She's lost a good Jewish colleague friend, and because she said something about the Palestinians, and her son may be asked to leave his Jewish school. So she's like, just don't say anything. I have to tell you, this is one of the more nerve-wracking sermons I've had to write. And let me share this reading with you to understand why it's been so nerve-wracking, because I think some of you are feeling some of that yourself in this conversation. It's really hard. This is an excerpt from Charlotte Clymer. She's a writer, activist, and veteran who wrote a blog called When Both Silence and Statement Become Complicity. I'll try to post this on our website afterwards, or our Facebook page, because it's a lot longer than this. But she wrote this. She said, for the past few weeks, in the midst of the murder of innocent civilians by the terrorist group Hamas, I have been astonished to witness a new wrinkle in our social fabric. It has quickly become simultaneously impossible to either speak up or be silent. When innocent people are being murdered, it is morally unacceptable to stay silent, of course. But what happens when speaking up means somehow being perceived as taking a side between competing oppressions and their corresponding evils? There currently exists a hair-trigger sensitivity on this issue so pervasive in our national discourse that even so much as acknowledging the murder of an innocent civilian anywhere will draw hostility elsewhere. It is no longer enough to express basic human empathy toward anyone suffering. It must be accompanied with extensive knowledge of foreign policy, the history of the Middle East, expressed through a litany of caveats, and even then one risks being accused of condoning atrocities either way. In the past week alone, I have been accused by online strangers of being in the tank for both the Israeli Defense Force and Hamas. Acknowledging the brutal murder of Israeli citizens by terrorists somehow means I'm condoning genocide against Palestinian civilians, yet calling for Palestinian liberation somehow means I believe Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself against terrorists, much less exist. Depending on the perspective of the extremists voicing these opinions, I'm either an unapologetic neoliberal supporter of the open-air prison that is Gaza, or I'm a radical leftist who wants Israel wiped off the map. For these extremist perspectives, there is no longer room for nuance, let alone grace. You must pick a side, they seem to say, and it had better be ours. At the same time, not speaking up, or rather the perception of not speaking up, draws anger from any given person who treats all of this like a team sport. The national conversation on this conflict has become so fraught in such a short time period that just about any observation risks becoming the target from a certain kind of mindset that believes recognizing the basic existence of others will lead to giving up a mile of survival for an inch of humanity. That is, by acknowledging the humanity of someone, we are somehow denouncing the survival of another. And this is evil at work. So I want to invite you into a time of contemplation. If you want to just take some deep breaths, this is pretty heavy stuff. Get comfortable, maybe soften or close your eyes. Take that deep breath. And consider her words. And how do we talk about this conflict? How do we give one another grace? And what do you think is the cure for the disease of evil? These are not easy questions to answer. But let us join Amy in singing a song that might give us some hint.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May
remember the story of the beginning of Diwali, about how it began with Ram, who was banished, and Ravan then steals his wife Sita, right? We think of Ravan as the bad guy, right? But you know, he actually wasn't always evil. He was actually considered one of the smartest people. He started out as kind of a really good guy. He got these 10 heads. He's like half demon, and I can't remember, like half human, half demon. And he got these 10 heads. There's various stories about how he got the 10 heads. He either wanted to apologize or he wanted to impress the god Shiva. And so every time he cut off his head, Shiva would have another one grow. Which kind of, it was an interesting way to go. But but each of these heads were different. And so what most people would interpret these as the different aspects of what it means to be human, right? These different parts of ourselves. And so these different heads stood for different things. So there was sort of the good heads, right, which is knowledge and devotion and consciousness and abundance. And then there were also bad ones like lust and jealousy, greed, anger, and arrogance. And the problem with Ravan is that unfortunately he ended up listening only to the bad heads. That's how he ended up doing these evil things, like kidnapping Sita. You know, we think about it in Christianity, we talk about having the devil and the angel right on our shoulder. That's kind of the same idea. Which one are you going to listen to? Because the very first step really in curing evil or not becoming or going down that pathway is to listen to your better nature, not your hatred, your violent anger, or your fears. It's to choose differently. There's a wonderful Native American story that's often attributed to, of course, to very different nations all over the place, known as Cherokee, sometimes it's Navajo, or the Dene. But the basically idea is a wise old man is teaching his grandson about life, and he says to the boy, a fight is going on inside of me. It's a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil. It's anger, envy, greed, arrogance, and guilt, resentment, and ego. And the other is good. It's joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, generosity, and compassion. And the same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. When the grandson asks his father, which wolf will win? The man replies, the one you feed. You know, the interesting thing about Diwali that Prasan actually pointed out to me is that it's not just about good conquering evil, it's also about relationships. It's about building connections with people so that we don't have that terrible separation. And if you didn't know, actually Diwali is celebrated on 5 days. The third day is the actual day of Diwali, which is today. But I love the fact that 5-day holiday, people, we need to adopt this, okay? But on some of those days, it's about cultivating relationships. It might be with your spouse. There's even on the 5th day, it's cultivating relationship with your siblings. How lovely is that? I've never heard of a holiday that celebrates siblings. I think that's just so lovely. So Diwali is also about connections, about making and keeping and maintaining connections. And not just with those that we love, with something greater than ourselves. For many, it is the goddess Lakshmi, who's the goddess not only of material well-being, but also of love and of liberation. And for me, one of the great gifts of Diwali is that it's not just about good conquering evil, but it can, in a sense, almost be a blueprint for how to cure evil. Because Diwali is about making those connections, and those connections then lead to light. Right? It opens us up. It spreads away the darkness. It fights through all of that, and it comes out in abundance in all of us when we want to do it. So it's not just about cleaning your house, it's about cleaning your soul. Now, it's very easy for me to stand here as a privileged white woman, non-Jewish, non-Palestinian, to somehow talk about love and peace when there are people that are being directly affected by this evil. And I don't want to also ignore the rise of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia right here in our country right now. When we talk about opening ourselves up to light and growth and growing those connections, that's easy to say, but it's really hard to do. But I think it's where we need to get to. I think it means that we keep finding ways to spread that light, to drive away the darkness, and we light lamps of goodness wherever we can. When people feel grief, anger, and fear, as many people do right now, people usually have one of three outlets that they go to. They want lament, they want to do something, right? Just give me something to do. Or they want knowledge, they want to understand what is going on. And that rage and grief needs some place to go so that it can spread light. So my colleagues and I, we've been talking about this, about how and what we can do, and we're creating places to do all of those things: lament, to do something, and to learn. As someone who personally goes to, I want to understand so much, on Tuesday night I'm going to be offering a class on the knowledge and understanding of what is going on with the Israeli-Palestine conflict. If you're like me and you just like knowledge, like just help me understand what is going on here, come join us. It's going to be on the same Zoom link that we normally have. And actually, we're inviting all congregations in the area to this. So you are welcome to join. I'm pretty good at telling history. It'll be at 7 o'clock on Zoom. I will tape it, but I ask that it not be sent around. This is highly volatile stuff. I trust you all. I trust you all to hold me with grace, because I can guarantee I'm going to make a mistake somewhere in there. You know, our first principle, it states that we affirm and promote the dignity and worth of every person, right? To me, this gets at the heart of fighting against evil, right? That's the first thought. Some might say, well, what happens if someone doesn't actually respect my dignity and worth? And my answer is, well, that's up to them. But as Unitarian Universalists, if we're going to fight disease of evil, the first step is to choose to see the dignity and worth of all people. And that is hard. Because here's the thing about this principle, at its core is love. It's the seed of love when we do that. And how we grow that love, that goodness inside of us, that's the first step. Okay, that person has a dignity and worth. That's the first. It starts with a thought, and then that thought is recognizing the dignity and worth of people, and then the second step is compassion. How can I connect with the suffering of that person? And then we lead to creating peace. And that's reaching out a hand, not in violence, but in friendship. I think that these are the steps to the cure to evil, and it isn't instant, and it isn't quite painful, but it's the only known cure. It's the only one. I'm grateful to be a part of this community of healers. All of you who work toward peace, who have compassion, who practice the art of seeing dignity and worth, who plant seed of goodness. And I hope you'll join me in trying to find a cure for evil, because we need a lot of healers right now. Let us sing.
Than the ones in the hymnal, so sing what's on the screen. It's been edited just a little bit. Please rise and body your spirit. If every person in the world had their mind set on freedom, if every person in the world dreamed a sweet dream of peace, if every person of every nation, young and old, each generation, had their hands out in the name of love, there would be no more war. If every leader in the world shared a vision of freedom, if every leader in the world shared a sweet dream of peace, if every leader of every nation worked for justice and liberation, holding hands out in the name of love, there would be no more war. If every nation in the world set a true course for freedom, If every nation raised its children in a culture of peace, if all our loves and all our neighbors reached in friendship across the waters, refusing to be enemies, there would be no more war.
Okay. Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are sharing with Stand Up for Kids, which is a local nonprofit that last year was able to work with the youth of Orange County in serving over 1,000 youth people, and at the same time, 3,000 nights in shelter for these young people over the course of the last year. They do have a 100% senior graduation rate, and a 99% are still in stable housing today. So, with that, we would definitely want to reach out to help with this organization. And there are multiple ways in which you can support the church and Stand Up for Kids. You can mail a check, you can go to our website, or you can use an app called Vanco Mobile. If you're a roomer, you can also simply use the basket as it is passed around. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
The chorus to this song is very simple. I am light. If you feel so moved as it comes along, please sing along. I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light, 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 I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not not my age, I am not my race. My soul inside is all light, all light, all light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Please. Okay, before we move forward, one of our newer members, Craig Preston, would like to tell you a little bit about why he thinks you need to pledge to the new sanctuary that we want to build.
Hello, I'm Craig Preston. All right, this will be quick. I just have a few things to say. First, some numbers to keep in your mind. 1953, 1959, and 95.6. That's not a temperature. That's a, yeah. And but how many of you were part of this church when it was back at Victoria? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, none of you can answer then. Those that didn't raise your hand, what was 1953? The founding of the church, of this church, 1953. 1959 is when they built the building on Victoria. And I looked that up last night because I was thinking, we're doing this building campaign. What's the history of this, though? Because there's a lot that happened in this church before I got here. I've joined 2.5 years ago and grateful for what I get to be. I get to receive by these chairs, this flooring, these lights. Where'd all this come from? Somebody paid for it. Somebody brought it in. So I'm here today, first of all, just to say an appreciation for all those that may have been around way back when that gave money for the Victoria in 1959. Anybody gave money for the 1959 build? Okay, see, that was all before we got here. And yet we've benefited from it for years and years and years. And I'm so grateful we now have this property and we have a chance. And then my last number was 95.6. That's the percentage that we're that close to being at our $2.7 million to build this new sanctuary. We're so close. So thank you, everybody who's already given, either in the first round, the second round, the third round. We've had a pandemic, we've had price increases, and here we are on the verge. We're going to have a congregational meeting December 3rd, and that's when we're going to vote. Are we going to do this or not? And yet having the funding in place is so important. So I asked myself recently, what am I going to do? But usually I go to my parents first. So I said, Mom, that's my mother right there. Wave, Mom. Can you up my allowance? Or can you? Yeah. And so I asked her, would you consider? We've heard about legacy. We've heard about the future. I've just shared about the past. But what are we going to do? How will I feel a part of this new sanctuary? And I said, Mom, would you be willing to consider giving? Immediately, she says yes. And I said, but Mom, you don't need to give what you can give this month or next month. It can be a pledge throughout all of next year. And she immediately said, I get this bonus check once a quarter. I'll give all 4 quarters. Thank you, Mother. Thank you. So that buoyed me up. So then I called my father in Virginia and said, they got this great paperwork out here, these pictures. I took some pictures. I sent him stuff. He immediately said, yes, I'll give. So touched. And not only did he say, I'll give now, but I'll give more next year. And I was like, oh, what a loving. So then I'm thinking, what do I want to do? So I made a pledge. And then last week, feeling so inspired, my mom doubled hers and I doubled mine. And just feeling grateful that we've got these bricks out here. We've got these ways that we make a legacy here. And I often want to invite more friends here. But you can see this place gets kind of crowded. And so thinking we can invite our friends and our family, our loved ones here. And so just want to share that one more principle is that be a cheerful giver. I've loved that principle throughout my life. So give what you can. The widow's mite was meaningful, the story of that, where she just gave a penny. And if you have $1 million, you can give $1 million. But we need it all. We need 121,094. So if you want to give the 4, if you want to give the 90, or the 121,000, all together, we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Please join us as we, in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts that we share.
We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Okay, I am so inspired by Craig that I'm going to double my pledge. I hope some of you might join me in that. Yeah, we can do this. We can totally do this. Awesome. All right, now is it a time when we honor the important events and people in our lives, and you are invited, one and all, whether a member, a friend, a visitor, everyone is welcome to participate in this weekly ritual that we call Joys and Sorrows. And this here is Bertie Reed. She's one of our pastoral care team members. She's going to assist in lighting the candles. So perhaps maybe you've come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days, weeks, or hours, something maybe that struck you at your core. And you're invited to honor such profound joy or sorrow by coming forward and lighting a candle, or online, you can request a candle to be lit for you. So if you're a roomer, you come forward to light your candle. If you'd like to share that joy or sorrow out loud with the congregation, you can fill out a piece of paper that the ushers have. Some of you may have already filled them all out, and you can hand them to me, and then I'll read them out loud once all the candles are lit. And Zoomers, of course, as always, you can write yours in the chat if you like. So please come forward, and as music is played, I invite you to silently offer healing or celebration as you feel called and according to your own beliefs. So Bertie, you're not quite done yet. We gotta read. So we gotta light the candles for the Zoomers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
We need more candles.
Yes, we're getting more candles for you. I love it. We ran out. There's so much light in this congregation that wants to be lit. This is a happy thing. So as they're looking for more tea light candles that we can light, should have bought some more of those Dias. They're so cute. So Dave Carlson from last week, if you remember, we had our pet blessing last week. And he didn't get to have this joy or sorrow. Now he said it was actually a candle of insight that he wanted to light from last week. He says, after living with cats for 60 years, I realized that if they could text you back, they wouldn't. Wisdom from Dave, yes. And let's see here, Francie Coleman, she lit a candle of joy. She says, happy birthday to my grandson, Ryan, who is turned 24 on 11/9. Ryan lives and works in Ohio, so happy birthday to Ryan. And Dawn and Sandy M. also lit a candle of joy for her birthday, said tomorrow is their granddaughter's Sabina, she'll be 10. I remember that because she was born when I first got here. Very cool. Me and Sabina like this. All right. And Sarah C., she lit a candle of joy because she likes to read books and do artwork and crafting, all really good ideas. Alex P. lit a candle of joy. He said, celebrating light and joy and hope in the world and in each person. Amen. And Leanna S., she lit a candle of joy because she says her new job and that her work-life balance allows her to return to church with her son Lucas. Yay. That's very cool. Right on. And then Simone B., she lit a candle of gratitude. She says, when she was a young girl, not that long ago, Simone, she says, when I was a young girl in Paris, girls were not permitted to go to the B'nai Mitzvah, the covenant, so the Jewish Federation in Irvine invited 60 of us from Europe to go to accompany this coming of age last Sunday. My son said, better late than never. Awesome. And Lori M., she lit both a candle of joy and of sorrow. She says her sorrow is, she says, my husband Lou has been gone 3 months now. I think about him every day and miss him. And her joy, she says, is her quilt Oceanside Pier at Sunset won second place in the Huntington Beach Art League show in the category of 3D craft and fiber art this week. So congratulations. Right on. If you know, Lori, where's your hand? Where's Lori? Lori's over here. If you want a chance, she's an artist with quilting, and she has stuff on her phone she can show you, so I'm sure she'd be happy to share that with you. So Dolly D. has a grave concern, a candle of grave concern for the North Hangar fire in Tustin. She says, hopefully the Navy can clean this up soon. Yeah. And Tracy D. has a very sad story to tell. It's a story of sorrow. She says her daughter lost a 21-year-old schizophrenic friend to suicide on Tuesday. And she was the last one he spoke with. She drove to the BART station to pick him up, but he was not there. 4 months ago, after a month of hospitalization, Kaiser gave him meds, then said, see you in 6 months. No follow-up. Our mental health system needs to be fixed. And it's good to be here in love. And it is. Yeah. All right, Marcia H., she sent me a sorrow that she has, if you would light a candle for her, Bertie. She says, I'm very sad to say that my sister Betsy passed on Friday, November 10th, after a very long illness. Marcia says she had a great sense of humor and was much loved by her family. Yeah. And let's see here. And Sarah H. also would like a candle of concern lit. She says, my daughter Colleen was burned in a fire because of a battery charging pack on her phone. She says bed linens were the only items damaged, but Colleen sustained 2nd and 3rd degree burns, and she is healing slowly. Please keep her in your hearts. Oh, dear. And Brandy also would like a candle lit for all those affected by the Tustin Hangar fire. As many of you also know, Friday was Veterans Day. And I'm curious how many veterans we have here. If you would raise your hand or stand. And if there's any veterans online, we also honor you as well. Thank you for your service. All right, let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadness, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. And let all these moments remind us that we're not alone. I'd like to invite Bertie up here into a spirit of prayer.
Holy Lakshmi, goddess born from the struggle between good and evil, guide us toward the light. In a world where plenty is possible, let us end hunger, thirst, and homelessness. In your nurturing hands, let us take refuge from want, fear, and violence with your grace. Let our world be reborn in your image, where all needs are met, where morality and love are abundant, and whereby we are free. Amen and blessed be.
Okay, let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently, and yet when we gather together, whether we're in a room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been made known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you're a Zoomer, or if you're a roomer, to stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you're from. We will have a microphone available here to pass around, so if anyone would like to introduce themselves, please do.
Be loud.
We have to hear over.
The Zoomers won't hear you.
There you go.
Didn't know I was broadcasting. I'm Kim Patterson. I'm Alex's mother, and Alex and Matt invited me here today to join you, and I'm very happy to be here and to be welcomed. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Barry Ross, and this is my husband, Jeff Tupper, and we are from Yorba Linda, and we've been involved with UU churches for over 20 years.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, thank you. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please, you can contact us at hello@ocuuc.org. I don't do that as good as Jolene, but you know. And we will help you get connected, definitely. In addition, we do invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at OCUUC. We want everyone, am I getting there? Okay, all right. We want everyone to feel part of this beloved community. So please reach out and we will help you get connected.
All right, and of course, quick announcements here. We've seen all the different stuff that are going on here. We've got a congregational meeting on December 3rd where we get to decide we're moving forward, we're not. Think about doubling your pledge, just saying. And so Tuesday night, I'm going to give a history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Tuesday, 7 o'clock, it's going to be on Zoom. You're all invited. It'll be in the blast, and I'll even send out probably a special thing since it's kind of last minute and everything. But all the UU congregations are invited to come to that. And I also want to note that we also have some Diwali sweets today to share with you all. So hopefully I got some right ones. I went up to a grocer and found a bunch. So we'll be putting those out there to try. They're really interesting, very different. So we'll have some fun with that. All right, so happy Diwali, everyone. Remember, you are light. Let us sing our benediction.
Out and all do our part. Let us go out. Bring joy to each heart. Let us go out. With indifference destroyed. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out and all do our part. Let us go out. Joy to each heart, let us go out. With indifference destroyed, let us go out with joy. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out with joy. This service is over. Let our service continue.